I have very dry lips.
All right.
Cameras, your camera flaps, everyone?
All right. Good morning, commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Yes, I first need to turn my ringer off on my telephone. On both telephones before I gavel us in. I'm trying to explain what's happening. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. Clerk Moss, could you do us the honors?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is now meeting this regular session, January 30th, 2024. Commissioner Treese?
Here.
Commissioner Rogers?
Here.
Vice Chair Fye?
Present.
Chair Harrington?
Here.
And I'll announce Commissioner Willie is having a little difficulty getting online, but should be shortly.
Okay, great. So when I see him online, I will make sure to note when we've seen him online, or Clerk Moss, I will need you to inform us because he may be able to join by audio but not video, and I need you to let us know that, which means I am giving you permission to interrupt any of us at any time. Okay? All right. Hello, folks. It's wonderful to see that we have such a wide audience today. I want to make a few logistics clear with regard to today's meeting. Some of you, I see you with red tags, may be here with regard to B engrossed ordinance 882. We have previously had, about 7, 8 public hearings on this. We have received your emails, your phone calls, your letters. The board has had the full opportunity to read all of that, including information that came in before the end of the day yesterday. So thank you for being on this journey with us. Today's meeting on B engrossed ordinance 882 is intended for board deliberation and potential action only. I realize some of you may want to come and provide some public comment, but when we go to the first public comment period, I will be seeking public comment on non-agenda items and on all items except for B engrossed ordinance first. And we will be limiting the public comment period to the 10 minutes maximum as posted. We will also have our public comment period towards the end of the meeting. Once again, I'll be doing the priorities there that I just talked about, but also that is a posted limit of 30 minutes there as well. And we will be following through on that. So, commissioners, do you have any questions about, also for the board's benefit, we will be having a short presentation on B engrossed ordinance. Then I anticipate that we'll open the floor for board questions and discussion. So, commissioners, do you have any questions about logistics? Okay, well then, moving on, we will move on to public communication. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to address us today on any items not on the agenda or any items other than B engrossed ordinance 882, that would be F1 or G1?
So first, Madam Chair, Commissioner Willie has joined us, so he is on screen for you there. So we do have signed up to talk land use in general, so that we'll go with that. So Brett Morgan, go first, if you can come forward.
So out of the full set that you have, do we have anyone else who's on?
No, this is all land use in general, and we've advised them that to avoid Ordinance 882, just land use in general.
Okay, thank you.
Question for the chair. Most of my comments were in relation to being gross Ordinance 882, but I can make generalized comments to land use, but can I mention 882, or is that bar to not?
So the record is closed
Sure.
on B engrossed ordinance 882. We have received your latest letter as well as your prior ones. So I wanted to make sure that anyone in our community who wished to make public comment on any topic other than 882 had the opportunity to do so first. So Clerk Moss has informed me that we don't have anyone who wishes to do that. Therefore, we're going to open the 10-minute opportunity for any conversation. Okay?
Thank you for clarifying. That makes
Thank you
more
for
sense.
your question. And is that clear? That's
Yes,
clear to you?
yes.
Okay, great. Let's proceed.
Thank you. Dear members of the Washington County Commission, thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and thank you for that further clarity. For the record, my name is Brett Morgan, and I'm here representing 1,000 Friends of Oregon as their transportation director. I was born and raised here in Hillsborough, but 1,000 Friends of Oregon works statewide. I'm here to specifically talk about land use, and as we are well aware, Ordinance 882, which has been before this commission for the better part of 2 years. Jumping ahead, first and foremost, as we've said in multiple pieces of testimony, we think the county is putting the cart before the horse in two specific regards. Within planning, you started with a TSP amendment and then moved to a study refinement area, which can only be seen as a justification or tool to justify future actions, and is sort of a backwards approach to planning where you go from rough solution to specific solution. Secondly, as we sent in our comments as of yesterday at 2 p.m., we think there are serious legal considerations regarding Goal 7, which haven't been addressed by the county, specifically the future and the need for the extension as the county has put in its technical documentation, but doesn't actually provide the justifications, and it says in their own documentation, a demonstration of need for the roadway will be determined through future comprehensive planning. Even though that requires comprehensive statewide land use planning law requires for that justification to need to be provided at the onset or the beginning. We have said since the beginning that the justifications being used by the county are squishy and legally an unsound base for justification. Many private landowners, 1,000 Friends, and others, you have said, have put many comments on the records to this effect, so we think there are two options for you today. You could address the trust deficit and begin to address the sunk cost fallacy before you and soundly reject Ordinance 882. Alternatively, you could pass Ordinance 882 today, and many of the parties standing before you stand ready to litigate on the many legal and unsound basis for the ordinance going forward. We feel both are a path forward that actually will will result in the rejection of the tile flat extension as a part of Ordinance 882, but we hope you do the first as a way to address the sunk cost fallacy before you. We want to be clear, we want to address the regional transportation needs needed for River Terrace 2.0, and we aren't saying the county can't grow, we just want a better vision. Thank you.
All right, next, Madam Chair, we have Miki Blizzard, followed by Glenn Fee.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chair Harrington. My name is Miki Blizzard. I live on Southwest Pleasant Valley Road in the Kenton area of unincorporated Washington County. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about land use process and transportation because the region went through the loop track process almost 30 years ago, and rather than build a new freeway, the solution to growing traffic areas, more traffic, was walkable, bikeable communities well served by transit. Unfortunately, very little of the loop track solution has been implemented throughout the county. And I'm disappointed that Washington County continues to think that building more roads is going to reduce traffic and solve our transportation problems. Can't we find better solutions? I think we can. Loop track pointed to some of them, but it's up to the county commission and other elected officials to ask the hard questions of their staff. Are there alternatives to building more roads, particularly more roads through rural areas? Are there ways that we can actually reduce traffic rather than continue to accommodate it and therefore generate more traffic? Are there ways to make sure that our communities include good employment opportunities so people don't have to commute by whatever means so far? We need to rethink the direction of the county and actually the whole region if we're going to provide a more sustainable future for future generations. Thank you.
We have Glenn, followed by Eric Hammaker.
I'll need you to remind me of your full name, that's all. Sure. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Glenn Fee. I'm the Executive Director of Tualatin Riverkeepers. I'm here to speak on behalf of the thousands of Tualatin Riverkeepers members and supporters in Washington County that ask you do work to the fullest extent to protect natural resources. The proposed refinement study area in question today hosts high-value farmland, tree canopy, and waterways. In a recent field study, positively identified the presence of federally listed steelhead in the tributary in the study area. Studies show that oil, grease, and copper from road runoff harms endangered and threatened salmonids by impacting fish migration. More concerning is the high mortality rate caused by 6-ppd quinone, a toxic tire leachate that has only recently been discovered to have devastating mortality rates on salmonids. The Tualatin River itself has documented sightings of Pacific lamprey, coho, and coastal cutthroat trout, and is mapped as a central salmonid habitat. In the presence of the federally listed steelhead would trigger Endangered Species Act requirements. Transportation accounts for roughly 38% of Oregon's climate pollution. The road in question would be in direct opposition to the state's climate-friendly and equitable communities rulemaking that requires transportation system plans to demonstrate a reduction in vehicle miles per capita by 2029. There's a reason that Tualatin Riverkeepers, Thousand Friends of Oregon, Tualatin River Watershed Council, and the Wetlands Conservancy, 4 organizations that have been committed for decades to protecting the county's natural resources, have serious concerns about road expansion in this particular spot. We're nearing an inflection point in Washington County. Do we want to be a county where residents can still enjoy the immense quality of life that comes with farms, wineries, and exceptional outdoor recreation while protecting natural resources? Or will we give those up in service to short-sighted and environmentally damaging vanity projects? The county must take into account its obligation to the health of the Tualatin River and its residents, and Ordinance 882 commits the county to plan for a road that would have irreversible impacts to natural resources and water quality. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, and thank you to our audience member for closing the door. I appreciate that.
All right, Eric Hammaker and Lily Stone.
And that will bring us to 5 people.
Hi, my name is Eric Hammaker. I have a winery on the edge of the urban growth boundary off Schultz Ferry Road. My family has been farming in the area for close to 60 years. Senate Bill 100 passed in the early 70s and was leading in a nation-leading land use plan that created institutional structure for statewide planning. It became Oregon's map for good growth. A large part of the push came from farmers who saw the coming environmental disaster. The sprawl associated with Southern California was also a threat to Oregon, and they sounded the alarm. Miraculously, Oregon's comprehensive land use plan was born. Of its 19 goals, agriculture is number 3, right behind number 2, land use planning, your job, and number 1, citizen involvement, our job. Recently, we've done our job, signed hundreds of letters, thousands of petitions, dozens of organizations have publicly opposed a certain choice over another. Over 100 people have spoken in opposition to this. 1 citizen spoke in support. The plans at hand make clear what your job is. Preserve the maximum amount of limited supply of our farmland, mitigate and adapt to climate change in your land use and transportation choices. Had SB 100 been followed, we would not see an intersection like Shoals Ferry and Tile Flat Roads, where high-density housing sits directly across the street from farmland, primed for conflict with no retail, no jobs, no entertainment, no green spaces, and no transportation considered. To fix some problems caused by previous poor choices, ironically, there's a proposal for another bad choice, interrupting a community that actually meets those planning goals. You have options. Please choose a better one than 882. Please don't kill one more farm or wetland with poor choices. Choose a plan not in need of exceptions to pass muster. A plan, like a map, only works when it's followed. Follow Oregon's plan. Thank you.
Commissioners and Chair, for the record, my name is Lily Stone. I live in the Shoals Valley. You might not know this, but I come from a long-term utility planning background. I've written testimony on behalf of large corporations at the Public Utility Commission. I've provided guidance to stakeholder groups. I'm no expert on long-term planning, but I do know a few things about it, and I know a few things about public engagement. I have to say, I've been disappointed in the county when I have followed processes here. This is not a negative review of your staff. I've worked with utility commission staff before, and I know that they're always doing the best that they can with the limited resources that they have available. I think that's the same here. When I say I'm disappointed, it's because of the limited engagement opportunities provided to your constituents. It takes a lot of courage to come to these meetings. It's hard for people to come to these meetings during the day, especially when they've been following a process for years. I have work experience doing this, and I still find it intimidating to show up here and speak to you all. Where are the listening sessions where you guys sit down and come to the table with a group of constituents and hear what they have to say? I know some of you do it, but we need it from all of you. Where is the engagement to make these processes more acceptable so that when we get more accessible, so that when we get to the vote for an ordinance, we're not all just so frustrated with each other that we just want it to go away? Where are the touch points so that when there are ideas for compromises, they're shared and they get feedback instead of being forced upon the public? Engaging your public in a long, drawn-out process where they don't have the ability to speak at the final meeting is such a bad look for you, for your legacy, and for representing the county. Whether or not we're legislatively required to provide comments or to not allow for comments at a third meeting shouldn't be the baseline expectation for engagement. Thank you.
Well, that brings us to our 10-minute public comment period for this segment of the meeting. So we'll proceed with our agenda from here. Next, we have today's consent agenda, which consists of 5 items, 1 set of minutes, 1 item from Clean Water Services, 1 item from Facilities, Fleet, and Parks, and 2 items from the Office of Community Development. What are the wishes of the commission?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I would like to say that after we adopt today's, well, actually, I'll do it now. We have a motion and a second. I would like to just contribute a comment to my colleagues and to the community. Items 4 and 5, I absolutely agree with, and I will be supporting today's public comment period. I want to praise our community, and that includes the Policy Advisory Board, which is related to the federal funding that we receive from HOME, what it's called the Federal HOME Program, as well as the CBDG, Community Building Development Grants. Commissioner Tree serves as the board liaison to the PAB, as it's called, Policy Advisory Board. And with that work, they've brought forward items 4 and 5 for us to consider, which involves utilizing home funds provided at the federal government level through the American Rescue Plan Act to address our homeless and affordable housing needs here in our community. And I really applaud our doing so and continuing to use all revenue sources available to us to address our homeless and affordable housing needs in our community. I am, however, frustrated with decision-making and advocacy by the Metro Council at our regional government, as well as the Metro Supportive Housing Services Oversight Committee. As the Washington County Board of Commissioner liaison to the Metro SHS Oversight Committee, I have seen how the 3 counties have done tremendous work through the year 1 implementation, the year 2 implementation, and now into year 3. That oversight committee is just finalizing its oversight report for the year 2 implementation. And through that process, the positioning has changed from noting the significant progress that the 3 counties have made in utilizing those resources to criticizing us for not moving fast enough, as Metro has changed the revenue forecast. Our staff has done tremendous work working with our community-based partners to build the capacity. It's a 10-year program. And I am frustrated by the fact that politics are being played to position that the counties and our partners, the nonprofit community-based organization, are not doing enough. In fact, we are doing enough. Also, while Metro is the sponsor for that voter-approved SHS measure, that SHS measure is not the only source of funds for us to address the needs of homelessness and affordable housing here in our community. This county has a long track record of applying various revenue sources to that problem, much longer than the majority of this board has served on the Board of Commission. This county will continue to do the same. The Metro Council, I applaud the Metro Council for sponsoring the Metro SHS funding measure because they recognized that homelessness and affordable housing with the Affordable Housing Bond are issues of regional concern. And I will continue to support our regional government's efforts in ensuring that the urban portions of our 3 counties under Metro's purview continue to be as vital and thriving as possible. But addressing the needs of our community and the urban area is not the only purview of the Metro Council. I recognize that through their Affordable Housing Bond and their Metro SHS measure, they recognize that those 2 needs are of regional concern. I wish they would remember that we do this work. It is part of our charter, and that we as county government and as a community are the ones being held far more accountable by our voters, by our state, and by our federal government as such. So let me be very clear, especially to the media folks who may be watching this meeting on Zoom or the recording, that I do not approve of the politics that are being played right now to make us look bad and to make our staff look bad, like they're not doing enough. So thank you to my colleagues for letting me be a little long-winded in sharing my comments with you today. I very much support this consent agenda and appreciate the recommendations that have come from the Washington County Policy Advisory Board, the PAB, for items 4 and 5. Commissioner Treese.
And for clarification, the Policy Advisory Board is made up of representatives from the cities throughout Washington County, so it's not just a board-related issue, it's widespread throughout the county. The other thing that I would like to add to your comments, Chair Harrington, is just clarification that Washington County has expended 97% of the funds available in relationship to the SHS bond. You may not hear that in the media, and I just wanted to underscore that message as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to adopt today's consent agenda. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to item D1. This is boards and commissions. We have some vacancies on our various boards and commissions. We have over 30 boards and commissions. And so I will thus announce the vacancies and through our vote, authorize the recruitment of applicants through March 12th of 2024 or until all vacancies are filled for the following. The Advisory Council on Racial Equity, also known as ACRE, 1 position. Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council, 10 positions. Audit Committee, 4 positions. That's a really good one to start learning about county financing. Behavioral Health Council, 2 positions now, and 4 will be available after March 31. Columbia Pacific Economic Development District, COLPAC, 2 positions available, and with that, you need to live in a certain geography. Developmental Disabilities Council, 4 positions, the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, and Combined Urban Road Maintenance District Budget Committee, ESPD/URMD, 1 position. If you live in the urban unincorporated areas, that's a good one. Fairgrounds Development Advisory Committee, 3 positions. Garbage and Recycling Advisory Committee, 1. Housing Advisory Committee, 1. Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board, once again, specific to a geography, 9 positions. The County Park and Recreation Advisory Board, 7 positions. Rural Roads Operations and Maintenance Advisory Committee, ROMAC, 1 position. Urban Road Maintenance District Advisory Committee, URMDAC, 2 positions. Those 2 are the rural one is you need to live in the rural area. Urban Road Maintenance District, once again, urban unincorporated areas. Then the Washington County and Service District number 1 Budget Committee, really interesting one on government finance, 2 positions. And then finally, the West Slope Community Library Advisory Board, another geographic specific one position. Do we have a motion and approval to follow through on the public announcement of those vacancies and authorize the recruitment of applicants through March 12th, 2024, or until all vacancies are filled?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of this motion, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to item E1. Black History Month is coming up here in the month of February, and so true to form, this Board of Commissioners would like to have the opportunity to proclaim February 2024 as Black Heritage Month and encourage the people of Washington County to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies. At this juncture, I'd like to invite our Interim Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, Dora Perry, to come up and address this proclamation opportunity. And I see we have some guest speakers as well, so I assume that you will introduce everyone as we go forward. Thank you, Dora. And we may need the portable mic. Is that possible, or will it cause feedback with the other mics? Yeah, but I want to give you the best opportunity. So while folks are getting settled in the chairs, and we do have another chair, don't worry. Thank you, Clerk Moss.
Good morning, Chair Harrington, Vice Chair Pye, and Commissioners. I'm starting with deep appreciation for you giving us the opportunity to start Black History Month celebration by reading the proclamation in this space. Thank you. For the record, my name is Dora Perry. I'm serving as your Interim Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. I am pleased to offer a few introductory remarks on our cultural heritage celebrations before I turn it over to our wonderful contributors to read the proclamation. I am pleased to offer Washington County cultural heritage celebrations and resources pages are an important starting point on our collective organizational engagement and learning about equity, diversity, and inclusion. During the month of January, we had about 10 volunteer staff that helped to plan, organize, and set up activities that will be coming up in February. And I hope everybody will participate because it's going to be very exciting. This is an opportunity to learn, to engage, and to, I also have to mention that there were some additional staff that were not directly from the county, and that from some of the offices here that added additional work. And we partnered with the City of Hillsborough and Clean Water Services. For them, I say thanks. These cultural celebrations offer an opportunity to enter into a relationship with staff and community members who identify as Black, African, and or African American, to build trust and deepen our understanding of these diverse and growing communities in Washington County. These celebrations also create an opportunity to learn about the historic and present operation of the Black community and the community's resilience in the face of oppression, so that we can reflect on whether or not our current policies and sentiments support the well-being of the Black community to dismantle racism and white supremacy. No culture is monolithic. All cultures, ethnicities, and nationalities encompass a range of diverse life experiences and opinions. There are numerous countries and far more ethnicities included within the Black, African, and African American community. These include people who immigrated to the United States freely and those whose ancestors were forcibly forced from their own lands under the bonds of slavery. Consequently, the celebrations and resource pages may not present a comprehensive picture of the nuances or full range of opinion within any culture or subculture. However, we do know the Heritage Month committees are thoughtful about the learning opportunities they share with our Washington County community. We encourage people who may be curious about what is or is not presented, or the policy implication of what is shared this coming month in February, to reach out to us at the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, OEICE, or open a dialogue with colleagues and or the Planning Committee. I want to thank Samsam Abdi, who is the person that from the Office of Equity and Community Engagement that has organized this, and all the members of the Black History Month County Announcement and Communications Subcommittee, who met for the past several weeks to really make this going forward to be an exciting month of activity, learning, and cultural engagement. With that, I would like to turn it over to our amazing partners here who will be also reading the proclamation, and they will be introducing themselves, starting with Folu Adeniji.
Dr. Fulu Adeni, Public Health Deputy Division Manager for Washington County. Good morning.
Jamila Osman, local writer and journalist.
Brianna Jackson, HR Manager for Learning and Development.
Proclamation. Board of Commissioners for Washington County. A proclamation in honor of Black History Month 2024. Whereas the Washington County Board of Commissioners takes pride in recognizing February 2024 as Black History Month, honoring the many notable contributions that people of African descent have made to our country. And whereas we celebrate the diversity of Black people in Washington County, the state of Oregon, our nation, and the Black diaspora, whether they identify as Africans, African American, African Latino, Afro-Caribbean, or Black, and whereas we celebrate this year's Black History Month theme of African Americans and the arts, shining a light on visual and performing arts, literature, fashion, folklore, language, film, music, architecture, culinary, and other forms of cultural expression in which the African American influence has been paramount. And whereas African American artists have used art to preserve history and community memory, as well as for empowerment. And whereas artistic and cultural movements such as the New Negro, Black arts, Black Renaissance, hip-hop, and Afrofuturism have been led by people of African descent and set the standard for popular trends around the world. And
whereas for centuries, Western intellectuals denied or minimalized the contributions of people of African descent to the arts as well as history, even as their artistry in many genres was mimicked and or stolen, and whereas we can still see the unbroken chain of Black art production from antiquity to the present, from across the African continent, from Europe to the New World. For example, prior to the American Revolution, enslaved Africans of the Low Country began their more than 300-year tradition of making sweetgrass baskets, revealing their visual artistry via craft, and whereas the suffering of those in bondage gave birth to the spirituals, the nation's first contribution to music, and whereas blues musicians such as Robert Johnson, McKinley Muddy Waters, Morgan Field, and Riley B.B. King created and nurtured a style of music that became the bedrock for gospel, soul, rock and roll, and other still popular and evolving forms of music, including hip-hop, which continues to be a pivotal force of political, social, and cultural spaces, lifting up issues such as racial violence, sexism, economic disinvestment, and whereas Black contributions to literature include works by poets like Phyllis Wheatley, essays, autobiographies, and novels by writers such as David Walker, Maria Stewart, and Octavia Butler. Black aesthetics have also manifested themselves throughout sculptures like Amania Lewis and Winkenji Matu, and painters like Henry O. Tanner and Lena Iris Victor. And
whereas in the 1920s and 30s, the rise of the Black Renaissance and New Negro movement brought the Black arts to an international stage. Members of the armed forces such as James Reese Europe and artists such as Langston Hughes, Josephine Baker, and Louise Maylou Jones shared Black culture and Black American aesthetics with international audiences, and Black culture began its ascent to becoming a dominant cultural movement to the world. And whereas the Afrofuturism movement has evolved over the past 30 years to define cultural and artistic productions that imagine a future for Black people without oppressive systems and examines how Black history and knowledge intersects with technology and science. And whereas despite these accomplishments, systemic racism persists in the United States, generating continued calls for lasting institutional and societal change so desperately needed in our country. And whereas today and every day we celebrate African Americans in the arts and encourage all people to recognize and confront systemic racism in our neighborhoods and the wider community by standing in the gap at every opportunity, bridging barriers with fearlessness and determination to fight against racism and bigotry, and improve representation of Black people, not only in the arts, but all facets of our society. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim February 1st to February 29th, 2024 as Black History Month and calls upon the people of Washington County to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and reflections, and to continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, equitable, and prosperous for all.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. That would be the end of the reading of the proclamation for the Black History Month. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. And before I ask for a motion and a second and open the floor for commission comments on this proclamation, I would like to ask a favor as part of our ensuring that we are coming across as proud of this opportunity and for you stepping forward, helping to plan our Black History Month events, but also in an effort to ensure that we are providing the most welcoming opportunity as possible. Might the four of you please reintroduce yourselves so that through this powerful message and your voices in bringing it forward, that we have the opportunity once again to know who you are and to hear your voice.
Thank you so much, Chair, Chair Harrington. My name is Dora Perry. I serve as the Interim Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer for Washington County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Arrington. I am Dr. Folu Adeniyi, Public Health Deputy Division Manager for Washington County.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'm Jamila Osman. I'm a local poet and journalist.
Thank you, Ms. Osman.
I'm Brianna Jackson. I am the HR Manager for Learning and Development for Washington County.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Chair, may I take the privilege of introducing Sam Abdi, who is videoing this and who is coordinating the committee and is a community engagement program coordinator. I don't want her to be left out.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Ms. Angie, that you've done so. Thank you. And also, I would invite all five of you and the other team members who are making these events of Black History Month possible for all of us here at Washington County to please join the commission for a picture as well. So I'd like to open the floor up for a motion and a second and any commission comments with regard to this powerful proclamation that has just been brought forward.
So moved, Chair Harrington.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Fye and Commissioner Treese. Are there any other comments from any commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for this presentation, the proclamation. And what I really appreciate is the work that your team has done, not just this year, but over the years that I've been here as a commissioner, to educate and to widen the experience of all of us in relationship to Black history. It's been very creative. There's been all sorts of different approaches. This year, with the inclusion of the arts and the impact that the arts have had on our entire world in relationship to what's brought forward by the Black community, I think is very, very powerful. And I just want to extend my appreciation for this different lens of looking at Black history. And I think it's impactful. I think it provides us a lot of thought-provoking ideas about how we all approach the communities that we live in. So thank you for this. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner Treese. Go ahead, Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair. Great job, team, Dora, and the rest of the team. This is my fourth year doing the proclamation for Black History Month, and every year I agree with Commissioner Treese that I learn something new, and it's always inspiring and empowering to do these proclamations for the different groups that exist in Washington County. So thank you for your great work to all of you. And I'm a girl fan of Jamila Osman, so if you don't mind me fanning over her for a little bit, great way to recognize what a gem that you have present here. So Jamila Osman is an amazing writer and an amazing poet and a well-known journalist, and is also, just for full transparency, is also from Somalia. Born and raised in Washington County, but originally from Somalia. And Jamila, you're an amazing leader. I'm so glad you're here today doing this proclamation, and you've contributed to the greatness and the benefits and the betterment of Oregon in general. So thank you for being part of Washington County, and thank you for being here today. And I just appreciate you, and just appreciate your brain and your brilliance.
And she'll be participating in the activities coming up in February, so that's exciting.
Wonderful, thank you. I assume we're done with commissioner comments. So with that, all those in favor of adopting today's proclamation for Black History Month and encouraging members of our Washington County community to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The proclamation motion passes unanimously on a vote of 5-0. Thank you. Oh, picture time. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
You mentioned it, yeah.
Thanks for the reminder nudge. Yes. Thank you. So this is an opportunity. This is how one of the ways we go through our bringing community visibility forward. So we've invited our speakers and every member of our Washington County committee who's helped us move this forward to come up for the picture taking. So here we go. We're going to take our pictures now, and as usual, we're going to have to probably do 2 rows with folks who are short like me in the front, as well as do the bookshelf thing so that we can fit everyone into the picture. Yes. Okay, so are we going to have to squeeze in a little bit more? We are an unruly bunch with this. Are we fitting into the pictures? I'll put my mic down in a second. Yes, we do. Okay, mic down.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, say cheese.
Just a couple more. Thank you very much. Okay, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Former teacher, yeah. Thank you very much.
Did I lose my colleagues? No. Is Commissioner Willie still online?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Oh, your Wi-Fi's good enough. Thank you. When you turn your camera off in Zoom, your box goes away, which is why I was inquiring, okay? Just so you know, which is why if your bandwidth starts to reduce and you need to turn your camera off, we're going to assume you're still here. Kevin will let us know if for whatever reason there are connectivity problems. So we're now picking up on item F on our agenda. Do we need to read the ordinance by title only?
Chair Harrington, Commissioners, I don't think so. I've looked at this a couple times, and I don't think you need to read it again.
Okay, so to be clear, we've had many public hearings on this be engrossed ordinance, including our daytime public hearing and our nighttime public hearing. We chose at the course of the nighttime public hearing to continue our public hearing process, which doesn't mean the public hearing itself for public comment is open. We closed the public hearing for the record, and we're continuing our public hearing process, which brings us to today for board deliberation on B engrossed ordinance 882. At this juncture, I'd like to turn it over to staff for a staff presentation before we open the floor for board deliberation. So, welcome.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Stephen Roberts, Director of Land Use and Transportation. Aaron Wardell, our Planning and Development Services Manager, is here with me. Aaron's going to walk you through a brief staff report. As you noted, Chair, your mission today is deliberation on the ordinance, and Aaron and I will be happy to try to help answer any questions that you have as you move through the deliberation process. So with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington and members of the board. We are back here today for deliberation on B engrossed ordinance 882. Over the course of the last number of years, your board has held 8 public hearings where you received testimony on this ordinance. It has been engrossed twice. That's why we're at the B engrossment today. At your last hearing on December 12th, your board continued your deliberations to today to allow for staff from Washington County and the City of Tigard to hold additional coordination meetings to talk about our collaboration going forward. So I can report back to your board that those meetings have taken place. We had 4, maybe 5 meetings between our 2 staff teams, and one of those meetings included Chair Harrington and Mayor Lube. The intent of those meetings was to move towards a signed agreement for our collaboration approach. We're not quite there yet, but we received comments back yesterday from City of Tigard staff after our meeting last week. And it seems like we're moving in a really positive direction, and we've found quite a bit of common ground and agreement. So we're feeling very optimistic about our conversations moving forward. So thank you for the additional time. I think that it has been valuable for both of our teams. Talking a little bit more about City of Tigard and some of their planning work in this slide as a reminder. In 2021, after we had begun this ordinance process, the City of Tigard requested a 500-acre urban growth boundary expansion known as River Terrace 2.0. That was approved by Metro Council last year. So part of the reason this ordinance was continued for such a long period of time was to allow the Metro urban growth boundary land swap process to play out and find out the final decision on that. So when we had a decision on that a year ago, we knew that 500 acres was coming into Washington County's urban growth boundary. It was swapped for some land in Clackamas County. This does cover part of the area that we had considered as a part of this ordinance. So that area is now within the urban growth boundary. It is no longer rural. City of Tigard will move forward in their comprehensive planning work. They're planning for 4,500 homes and associated businesses and commercial areas as well as they move forward with planning and developing this area. Tigard's comprehensive planning work will include extensive public process, hearings, community engagement meetings, and county staff will be participating in a technical advisory role as a part of that comprehensive planning process. The background on the Tile Flat Road extension proposal and how we got here is listed on this slide. The connection was initially identified over a decade ago as a part of the South Cooper Mountain planning process. It was further studied in Washington County's Cooper Mountain Transportation Study and the Urban Reserves Transportation Study, which was funded by Metro with the intent of allowing Washington County as the regional transportation system provider to have a better understanding of what transportation system improvements we need associated with future urban growth boundary expansions. It was interesting to see one of those expansions take place so quickly during the process of this ordinance. Prior studies all recommended the inclusion of the Tile Flat Road extension in the county's transportation system plan. We specifically included it in our urban planning area agreement with the City of Tigard, which your board adopted by ordinance in 2021, and Tigard City Council also adopted at that time. The initial ordinance proposed to your board did include a specific alignment of a roadway and did include findings that took an exception to statewide planning rules in order to allow planning within a rural area. The B engrossment of this ordinance walked that back to a refinement area. What this slide shows is what those three different refinement areas look like. Staff feel that moving towards the refinement area reflected that there is still a lot of coordination and a lot of things that we need to answer before we're ready to put that alignment on the map. Walking this back to the refinement area allows us to continue doing that collaboration, allows us to flag for our community transparently, though we expect there to be change in this area. But it does not presuppose what that solution to these transportation needs will be, and it does not presuppose where something specifically will go. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. Refinement areas are locations where we've identified that there is a need for some kind of a transportation solution, but again, it does not presuppose what that solution will be. The process of determining the need, mode, and function and general alignment will take place in the future. We cannot fund or construct a capital project until we have finished the rest of those planning processes and we come back to your board and specifically draw a line within our plan documents. So this is only the beginning of the process. We're not prepared to do any of those other things. What will likely happen is that City of Tigard will finish their comprehensive planning for the River Terrace 2.0 area. County staff will then bring forward an ordinance to make our transportation system plan match their transportation system plan, as we do when any city adopts a transportation system plan. Once we know what Tigard is doing within the River Terrace 2.0 area, and at some point in the future, we can consider future planning for the undesignated areas where we have drawn the refinement areas as a part of this ordinance. So the refinement areas really allow us to do that additional coordination work. It's not just about our needs today. It's about setting us up for success in the future. We know that this area is changing. We know it's growing. We want to be ready for that. I know there have been a lot of questions about looking at environmental impacts and specific concerns about there being a creek crossing with the Tile Flat Road extension. That's all a part of the future work that will be done. The Mountainside Way extension, the north-south component of the collector facilities that we're talking about in this area, also includes 2 creek crossings. So we know this is an area that has a number of areas that will need to be studied in greater detail, again, as a part of future comprehensive planning processes by Tigard and possibly by the county. Other alternatives could emerge that we haven't yet identified. That's kind of the beauty of the refinement areas. It gives us that flexibility to change as conditions change or as other planning work evolves. So our staff recommendation for today is that your board deliberate on B engrossed ordinance number 882. Following those deliberations, staff recommendation is to adopt the ordinance and by separate action, adopt the findings. And that concludes our staff report.
Thank you. I'm first going to open the floor to my colleagues and myself for questions and then come back to comments. But if you can't resist making comments now, fine. I'm not going to object to that. So do any district commissioners have any questions of our staff with regard to today's presentation and how we've gotten to B engrossed ordinance 882 or on B engrossed ordinance 882 itself? Go ahead, Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Thank you, staff, for your great presentation and all the work you're doing with this ordinance. I think I have 4 specific questions for you, and especially the last 2 will probably be a repeat of what you said because you covered it very well. The first question I have is, why is the statewide planning goal exception is listed?
We don't need exception to statewide planning rules in order to adopt this ordinance. That's not included in our findings. We did need an exception for the original filed ordinance and the A engrossment of the ordinance because those proposed an alignment within the rural undesignated and at the time urban reserve areas, which are considered urban. So we no longer need an exception for doing a refinement area. The exception is no longer included in our findings for that reason.
So it's not included in B engrossed ordinance, nor is a exception part of the findings for B engrossed ordinance.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. The other question I have for you is, and you've covered it, but it's a question that keeps coming back, so just bear with us as you repeat yourself throughout the years. Could you just briefly reiterate what triggered the extra connectivity need?
Within this area. So I'm actually going to go back to the slide that shows Tigard's concept plan because I think that's the best map that we have in this presentation. Actually, this one is kind of okay from Beaverton's plan too.
So speak to both.
We can speak to both. What I like actually about the Beaverton one is it zoomed out a little bit more. And so one of the interesting things about Washington County is how we have a crescent of urban area. And so that means that there's a lot of pressure on our rural transportation facilities to carry urban traffic. If we were building cities in SimCity or a computer program, we would make them all round because that's really the best way to serve urban areas, right? It's that hub and spoke model then of transportation systems works really well. That's not what we're dealing with in Washington County. We have this crescent shape. That's also where a number of our urban reserves were identified. So we knew that that's where a lot of the future urban growth boundary expansions would take place. As a part of building out those areas and making sure that we have the adequate level of transportation needed, and I mean multimodal transportation, it's important to consider additional connectivity. So a part of identifying this particular extension is creating additional connectivity, additional resiliency and redundancy to our existing transportation system. When we initially did the Cooper Mountain Transportation Study and the Urban Reserves Transportation Study, we were looking at the fact that this was an urban reserve. Most of it was an urban reserve, some of it's undesignated, and we expected it to come into the urban growth boundary at some point. And so that is what happened about a year ago. And so as a part of that, it makes the planning for these future connections even more important and again sets us up for success in not precluding connectivity that we may need 20 years from now. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. My third question is, can we add, I think one more slide, if you go to the one that shows the refinement area, Mountainside Way to the study area. It's a question that came to me.
Can you repeat the question?
Can we add Mountainside Way to the study area, but it's
in there. Yeah, I don't quite understand. Yes. So there's some of the nomenclature around the particular roadways has been a little bit confusing throughout this process. So the Tile Flat Road extension is that east-west portion, and that's in that first refinement area that is outside the urban growth boundary and rural undesignated land. The middle portion has an east-west piece, which would be the Tile Flat Road extension.
So this, as I understand it, the study areas are not so specifically discrete as drawn.
Correct.
They're illustrative.
They are intended to be illustrative. They're intended to be that flag in the plan that something is going to change. And so again, that middle area shows the north-south piece of Mountainside Way as well. And then the southern refinement area, the one on the far right here, would be for that future expansion into, again, the rural undesignated area south of Tigard's urban growth boundary expansion area. So Mountainside Way is in that middle refinement area.
Thank you. And then my last question for you is, I've heard you list out Tigard Comprehensive Plan. You've also referenced the design and the construction phase. And then also there was, in my briefing, I didn't hear it come up, but Goal 5 and the SNR the significant natural resources work that is to be done in that phase. Could you, I've had a lot of constituents that are interested in defending farms, forests, and natural areas. Could you just repeat what are the opportunities in the future to minimize environmental impact? What process in any of the Tiger Comprehensive Plan, the design and the construction phase, or the Goal 5 work, any of that, when is there an opportunity to influence the environmental analysis in these? Is there an opportunity to defend farm and natural areas and wetlands?
Absolutely. So considering environmental constraints, minimizing, avoiding, and then mitigating is all a part of planning processes that would take place in the future. So again, the refinement areas are just a flag that something will change here. We'll continue to do further analysis. All of those specifics about where resources are on the ground and how we will address and protect those resources and mitigate when necessary will be a part of those future decisions that are made down the road. When we talk specifically about farmland, I think it's really important to note that that middle refinement area on the slide up there, the green area, was all brought into the urban growth boundary by Metro Council about a year ago. So that is now considered urban land. City of Tigard will annex it at some point in the future. They will finish their comprehensive planning over the next couple of years and then move towards annexation and move towards development of that area. So that area is now different than it was when we first started this ordinance because it is no longer considered to be rural land. And it's no longer something we'd consider as farmland. The undesignated rural areas on the left and on the right refinement area are still outside of the urban growth boundary, and so those are still rural, and so we would still take into consideration the points that you're making. I do want to make a note about Washington County's Goal 5 and significant natural resources updates. Again, because that middle area is expected to be within the City of Tigard when development actually happens, it will be City of Tigard's environmental regulations that will apply, not Washington County's. That hasn't happened yet, but at some point, Tigard will finish their planning and Tigard will annex the area, and then our comprehensive plan land use policies around significant natural resources will be replaced by City of Tigard's. Does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you so much, Aaron and Stephen. I yield back, Chair.
Do any other district commissioners have any questions at this juncture? So if I might, if I could ask my question next. So in B engrossed ordinance, on page 52 of 85, so I'm referring to, there's Exhibit 1 of the ordinance. There you have revision marks to define the 3 different refinement areas. So I'm trying to be clear and specific so you and anyone who's following along knows what my question is. So for the second and third refinement areas, you use the phrase, there is potential future need. Whereas with the first one, so dealing with the example here on the left-hand side, the phraseology is quite absolute. There is a future need. So I'm wondering, my question is, could you please speak to why on page 52 for that tile flat portion, is it identified in absolute need terms versus potential need?
So that has to do with how we initially framed this ordinance and some of the language that we were using initially when we defined these refinement areas. We actually said there's an identified future need for both the tile flat extension in the rural undesignated and the tile flat mountainside way within the City of Tigard in our initial draft. The City of Tigard asked us specifically to change the language for describing that middle area, and we wanted to be respectful of them and the fact that they have their comprehensive planning work. And so that was one of the changes we made responding to Tigard's requests. But county staff feel that we have established the need. We've established the need for additional roadway connectivity through a number of previous planning studies. And so we thought that we could include that language for all three of the refinement areas if we wanted to. The language for the Mountainside Way Southern extension was actually intended to be a little bit more general. That was included in the original filed ordinance as a refinement area, so that third panel wasn't a change. That was how we had it in the original ordinance. Just because that undesignated area has not had as much work done on it, and we weren't quite ready at that time to establish what that need would be. There were a number of conversations with Tigard about a park property they own within that rural area. King City has planning over on the east side, as well as Tigard having planning on the east side. So we just weren't ready yet on that one, and that's why that one had that proposed need. So to answer it, they're all a little bit different. The work we've done is a little bit different, and we were trying to work with City of Tigard as well through the process. But I understand it's a little bit confusing that the wording is a little bit different there.
Related to that, could you either explain or verify for me that the findings also support, as I put it, this absolute future need?
We believe that they do. So the findings address our required state, regional, and local policies and how we feel that we're consistent with them. If this went to a LUBA appeal and LUBA said your findings are insufficient, we would provide additional findings. Because we initially filed this ordinance expecting to need to take an exception to statewide planning rules and include an alignment for a future road, we have extensive findings that do the alternatives analysis that we needed to do as a part of that, and we have them ready. Again, we didn't think we needed them as a part of this ordinance. We think our findings are adequate, but if LUBA said you need additional findings, we do have those ready, establishing the need.
But towards the end of having walked back to the refinement areas, it seems to me that this phrasing of there is a future need, there is a future need for an extension, is, in my words, an absolute need, and isn't true to the what this be engrossed ordinance is saying, that in that leftmost segment, that further study will be needed to determine if absolutely such an alignment is provided. I don't have a problem with staff saying, no, we believe that we've demonstrated that there's an absolute need. I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear that if be engrossed ordinance 882 is adopted, that from a staff perspective, there would be an alignment put through there, as opposed to the future study allowing but not necessarily saying that it will happen. So that's, sometimes I get pretty discreet in my thinking, which is why I'm asking this question.
And I think I understand where you're coming from with that. The refinement area language, while it does say there is an identified need, it does not say what the answer to that need is. And so the answer to that need could be something different at the time when we've done the future planning studies for it. So, for example, it could be a completely different alignment than we've entertained previously. It could be improvements to adjacent roads. It could be trail connections supported by improvements to adjacent roads. We're just saying we've identified a need for a solution. We're going to work together and find out what those solutions are through future planning processes.
Thank you for answering my questions. I would like to make sure to check in with all of my colleagues to see if you have any questions at this juncture. And if not, we'll move to questions and/or comments. Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I have no questions at this time, but I do appreciate the questions that the two of you have asked for clarity. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any comments that you would like to make, or should I ask first for a motion to adopt be engrossed ordinance 882? Or have we already done that?
No, you haven't. That would be a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping me with my first day back from vacation, including time zone differences. All right, so at this juncture, I would open the floor to entertaining a motion to adopt or be engrossed ordinance number 882.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion from Commissioner Fye, a second from Commissioner Willie. So the floor is now open for commissioner comments. I will be going last, but I want to make sure my colleagues have the opportunity to speak. Go ahead, Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say to the staff, what an excellent job you've done. This is a very difficult corridor. We understand that. Some early questions that I had was, what is the projected number of new folks who might be along that way? And I think you said 75,000, which isn't particularly surprising, but that's bigger than King City, Tualatin, and Sherwood combined. We also know that we have significant growth that's happening in a particular area from Tigard. We're also going to see King City through their urban growth plans. We also see I guess they call it Sherwood East. So there's a lot of development happening. And I've always known that there's a corridor that needs to go somewhere in there. So don't fault anybody's work. I think you guys have done great. You've come back with refinements. You've answered questions. And there's a need. But as I told Stephen through an email this morning, I can't support this particular ordinance today. I've been telling you I've been on board, but I'm not. And let me tell you my two items of concern. If they were somehow able to extend this, and I know we're tired of extending it and maybe get to points later on, that'd be great. But if it's an up or down today, I'm having to vote no. My first one, the refinement areas always go to Vandermost. You couldn't pick a worse road to run anything down in terms of a larger capacity facility. That should be, and I understand we have to allow for those folks in and out, but those refinement areas should be pulled to what I would call the east of Vandermost. So that's not even in the refinement area, that Vandermost. If you insist on it being in, I have a problem. Secondly, and I've been told that this doesn't make any sense in this mode, but I think it does. There's all kinds of action on tolling, particularly our friends in the south. I hear it all the time. I hear it over in Clackamas County, but now we're hearing it in the north. If there's a tolling going to be happening on 26, a lot of people say, well, that's how we pay for the commodities to get to market. That's going to have a significant impact on county roads. Diversion is a technical term. And if we're going to have diversion at levels that are solving statewide problems, not just local and regional problems, that's more than we should be doing. I'm not happy about that. And you say, well, you're just anti-tolling. Well, I'm anti-tolling unless there's some solution that's more broadly applied. I think two counselors from Metro, they're both gone, Shirley Craddock and Craig Dirksen, both said it best probably a few years back, saying we need to do it all or nothing, because you can't discriminate and make winners and losers at that level. So I can tell you, having represented that area for a long time, that the cities of Tualatin, the cities of Wilsonville, the cities of Sherwood, and even the cities of Tigard are net exporters of workers to the north. There's a lot of people traveling those roads. Whether we want to admit it or not, they're going that way. And so we're going to find more and more diversion happening, which is a problem, and we need to solve all of this more holistically. The third point I'd make is that I have had a long, good relationship with the city of Tigard, and I still honor their comments, but this 15-minute, I can only walk and bike, doesn't work because the Amazon trucks are too fast and furious. I live in that area. Amazon and every other carrier of services, nobody's producing everything that they wear, everything they eat. Maybe a few farmers getting close to it out there, but not most. They're not making their tractors. So people are consuming products from other areas, so you have to understand that this is an urbanized area. We have to get products in and out, and I think through thoughtful building development plans, you can make it a very accessible route that would not impact River Terrace 2.0. So those are my comments. I've studied this a long time. I've looked at it a long time. I live in the area. I looked at the facilities impacted. I can't get there today. And what would my solution be is, let's talk some further. Let's understand what we're doing. We're not trying to create a freeway through there, trying to create a route, a safety route for school buses, for ambulances, for fire trucks. I mean, we need that. A way to get in and out of that area from all of those new developments. I agree. I'm there. Keep it away from Vandermoos. And then I would be much more inclined to vote yes. So those are my comments.
Commissioner, I wonder if I could ask a follow-up question. I'm confused a little bit about the Vandermost concern that you've expressed. So I think we want to be clear. We're not encouraging upgrading Vandermost Road itself. The idea is that we would have a facility that would roughly parallel Shoals Ferry Road that would cross Vandermost Road, but the idea is that we are really looking to establish that east-west connectivity. I think without such an alignment, you would actually induce more traffic demand on Vandermost Road. So that's been one of our concerns, actually, is just ensuring that we do have good internal connectivity within the community, as well as other options other than simply Vandermost Road to move a significant number of potential future residents in and out of that community.
Through my comments, we will come back to this.
I would just simply say I appreciate your comment. I don't think we need to cross it. There's plenty of room, as you know, between existing, what would be Roy Rogers and part of River Terrace and Vandermost. There's plenty of room to put facilities in. I don't even think we have to cross it or touch it. So I respectfully say I'm not a traffic engineer. I get that, but that's my problem. So anyway, enough said.
Commissioner Willie, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you, Chair. I'm trying to look at these things on my phone, so it's a little dinky screen. Well, Roy, you know, I completely agree with everything you said, except for the conclusion. I mean, they talked about 4,500 homes, 11,000 people. They talked about we're not presupposing what the outcome is. We're saying we're going to study options. And if we would get to another spot, I'm assuming that's the direction we would go. But all we're doing is leaving options available at this point in time. And I think we take 882 off the table, we are limiting our options. And so, whereas like I said, I agree with all the facts that you tossed out there. We talk about diversion. We talk about exporters of workers to the north. Every one of them have the opportunity to go on Tile Flat Road, Shoals Ferry Road, onto River Road, over to 219. Every one of them on roads that are not designed for commuter traffic, but that's where they are, and that's where they're going to be, and that's where the increased traffic is probably going to go. So we have to have options on the table available to do this. And so that's where I am. I appreciate all of the testimony and all of the information certainly that has been presented to us. I think Stephen and Aaron and staff have done a great job of evaluating all of this. We just need to give them the opportunity to move to the next level with all the options that are available. So that's my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Any other district commissioners wanting to make comments? Commissioner Fye, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I will be voting in support of this ordinance 882. And as Commissioner Willie articulated, the task in front of us, or what we're doing today, is to really just designate these refinement area. And then that's not it. There's more, which is to collaboratively work together to find the solutions, which includes, for me, which is my biggest concern, is environmental impacts. I too want to thank the constituents that sat down with me to engage in conversations about this ordinance, Senate Bill 100. And I certainly appreciated our in-depth conversations on the first 10 statewide planning goals that we've had, including the one about urbanizations and controlling sprawl. The individuals who met with me with undesignated properties that are not in the urban reserve that can never be brought into the UGB in the near future, or have properties in the rural reserve area that can never be brought into the UGB. I feel your sense of feeling confinement. I feel that with you. But today, the task in front of us that I'm supporting is to really just designate these refinement areas and then to collaboratively work together to find the solutions, which includes environmental impact. And one point, the final point that I want to elevate, this is the materials the staff put together, is this ordinance does not authorize roadway construction. Instead, it documents the findings of several previous studies demonstrating that we need to plan for multimodal transportation connectivity in this area and throughout the county. Thank you.
If I, thank you for your comments, Commissioner Fye. I appreciate hearing them and actually agree with your points. I do need to ask a clarifying question of our staff on one of your points so that I can fully appreciate it. If I heard it correctly, I heard a reference about in the short term that the undesignated rural areas could not be brought into the UGB.
In the near future.
In the near future. Okay. I think there's one asterisk on that in terms of what the near term means. When we were following through on urban and rural reserves as the Metro Council and each of the 4 counties, the terms were that the undesignated areas essentially wouldn't be touched for until there's a reset or a check-in in 20 to 30 years, okay? The state legislature chose to change that with House Bill 4078, such that once 75% of the original or the adopted final urban reserves are utilized within Washington County or individually any of the counties, then the undesignated areas can be tapped by the Metro Council for UGB expansions. I don't know where we're at with regard to the utilization of Washington County's urban reserves. So if possible, if staff could clarify for at least me where things are at, because as we know, the governor, COTEC, and the state legislature is considering expediting UGB expansions to increase the supply of housing development, pure and simple. It's not even restricted to affordable housing. So there is a question buried in all of that. Could staff address that question? And I'm looking not only to our technical staff, but also our legal staff.
We believe we are at about 40% right now of the original Washington County urban reserves having been added to the urban growth boundary by Metro Council. And that's about 10 years in because HB 4078 was adopted in 2014.
And the 40% that Aaron alluded to also includes the land in the River Terrace 2.0 area, so that 500 acres helps constitute that 40%.
Okay, so that means that UGB expansion of 30% more, and for rough math sake, the Beaverton, South Cooper Mountain UGB expansion, the King City area UGB expansion, the River Terrace 2.0 expansion has occurred, and even the South Hillsborough UGB expansion all compose that Washington County 40% of UGB expansions. So if anybody's looking to do the math. Thank you for allowing me to ask that clarifying question. So while the short term may not be for another 5 to 10 years, it's still out there, perhaps while in your next term as a county commissioner, or the one after that. So, okay, Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my fellow commissioners for the comments you've made so far and the questions that you've asked. For me, this has been extremely difficult, and I have not stated a position to this point because I've been taking in information. I've read all of the letters. I have talked with several of you who are in the audience. I've had meetings with several of you, and I greatly appreciate the input that I've received from you. I also want to thank the staff for the work that you've done in relationship to this process. It's been a long process. I also want to take a moment and say thank you for the last little delay to allow for additional discussions between Tigard City administration, staff, and the politicians, so to speak. So I do appreciate that, and I think that served us well as we make a decision today and move forward into the future. One other comment I want to make is in regard to Commissioner Rogers' comments about tolling. I do sit on the West Side Multimodal Improvement Study Group, and the results of that was not to look to tolling, but to further study the impact of tolling on 26. So I just want to clarify those comments for those of you that are here today. My thoughts include, number one, this ordinance is, we need to address the connectivity piece. The ordinance sets a flag that will allow us in our planning documents to continue to support the needs, and that's the way I look at this ordinance. As Commissioner Fye mentioned from the staff, that the ordinance does not authorize immediate road construction. We know that, and it's a moment to be able to look at what our connectivity needs are and to progress toward those. The comprehensive planning for this area could eventually lead to identifying specific roadway alignments in future construction, but it's important for me to remember that those decisions are still ahead of us, and that we will be making those decisions with further community input, and I think that that's another important piece. So I will be voting yes on this. I want to extend once again my appreciation to those of you that are here in the room, to those of you who are listening, and to those of you that have provided testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, District Commissioners. I'll make my comments next. I do join my colleagues in appreciating the work of staff in the various studies, as well as the work that's been involved with the original Ordinance 882, the Planning Commission travels, the A engrossed ordinance, the B engrossed ordinance, and all the meetings and community engagement in between, as well as entertaining our questions today. What we might recall, one thing that hasn't been mentioned today is in that journey, I was one of the folks who wanted to take Ordinance 882 in all of its forms back to the Planning Commission for further work. That wasn't supported, so we've been on the forefront of doing this work. One of the other concerns that you heard me refer to recently on B engrossed ordinance, I think, was my concern for one way in, one way out. Vandermost Road specifically is, if we could flash up the slide that has the 3 refinement areas behind us. That is one of my chief concerns, that the area that's been brought in for River Terrace 2.0, that the city of Tigard in their concept planning will put homes on Vandermost Road with access for those homes up to Shoals Ferry Road being the only access that those homes have, which I think is part of the reflection that Commissioner Rogers mentioned, which is why I'm concerned about one way in, one way out, okay? I understand through the city's, pardon me as I shuffle pages, on the 3rd slide, River Terrace 2.0, and I know from the meetings that we've had both with me in the room as well as with just our staff, that the city of Tigard, in their planning for these areas, is very mindful of ensuring that through the comprehensive planning and development of those areas, that with the exception of Vandermost Road, that all of those community members will have at least 2, so multiple ways in and out, and that includes all of the service trucks, whether they be the garbage trucks, the fire trucks, the ambulance trucks, or other delivery trucks or servicing trucks. So I've been concerned about that, and that concern remains. And I want the city of Tigard to know that. I don't support the city planning the River Terrace 2.0 area and putting access to homes on that westmost boundary as one way in and one way out with Vandermost Road, and I think Commissioner Rogers put that well. I will also say that it has been a little hard to hear or understand some of the public comment, whether it's been in person or in letters and emails, with regard to the planning of urban reserves. Personally, because I had a front row seat on the urban and rural reserves work as the Metro Council representative to the Core 4 for urban and rural reserves, as well as an urban reserve decision maker being a Metro Council rep. So I believe that the kind of planning work that the city of Tigard is endeavoring to do is the kind of urban development that we're looking for, with connectivity within that community as well as multiple connectivity points. Through all of this, I have realized that I have made a mistake. I neglected to have our staff give me a thorough briefing on one of the prior studies that was done to develop the engrossed ordinance 882, and that Commissioner Treese will help me with the exact name. The Urban and Rural Reserves Transportation Planning Study.
Urban Reserves Transportation Study?
Yes. That study was adopted. Commissioner Treese participated there in your prior role as the executive director of the West Side Economic.
The Future Study, Transportation Future Study.
Future Study.
That's the one you were on. Yes. So I need to back up. There were prior future studies that be engrossed ordinance 882 and its findings have relied upon. The one that I have neglected to get a briefing on by our staff is the one specific to future transportation needs, specifically for urban reserves. That's the is called which?
The Urban Reserves Transportation Study, which was an outcome of the Transportation Future Study work that Commissioner Treese and actually Commissioner Willie in his previous role
As mayor.
Right, were heavily involved in.
Along with Mickey Blizzard.
And Mickey was also one of the Mickey Blizzard was a co-chair of that work as well. And so a lot of people in the room were involved in that work. That work led to county staff pursuing the Urban Reserves Transportation Study, which was funded by Metro. Because Metro acknowledged the challenge the county faces, we end up in a backseat role. Metro cities ask for UGB expansions, Metro Council makes the decision. The county, as the regional transportation provider, is then in a reactionary role. So this was an opportunity for us to identify what we need to be ready for these areas to come into the urban growth boundary.
Which leads to the quandary that I find myself in. The outcome that I'm looking for, what those studies have done, and what our staff is trying to allow for in identifying future travel needs is and the next slide, I think, highlights this as well with the Beaverton, sorry, let me flip. Yes, could we go to the next slide, please?
This is the one that shows Beaverton. Yep.
Yes, so this one shows the potential for putting an alignment across that undesignated area in that upper leftmost area where you see the yellow. That's the one that I just can't support at this juncture, okay? I do, there's also the connectivity down below as well. So without the two yellow areas to the northwest and the southeast, what we're dealing with is the River Terrace 2.0 area folks needing to navigate in and out, right? And I've already spoken to not wanting one way in and one way out, so Vandermost Road cannot be relied upon as an edge connectivity, which is very different than Jean Louise. I think it's Jean Louise, but I can't remember the name at the very bottom. But I do understand the reality that we have traffic that's moving now, traffic circulation. They may all be electric vehicles, okay? But circulation will continue to grow through development and population growth. And that includes with the King City expansion as well, and potentially with expansion down in the Sherwood area. So if we don't move forward with the study areas that B engrossed Ordinance 882 allows, then circulation will be reliant upon Tile Flat Road to the northwest, Shoals Ferry exclusively, I meant to put the word exclusively in there, to Tile Flat Road to the northwest, sorry, I'm directionally challenged, Shoals Ferry Road, essentially east-west, and Roy Rogers alone, north-south. Which may be the choice, versus, say, an alignment that somehow is different, which is what B engrossed ordinance would allow for. Not exactly this yellow, but somehow acknowledges that there is a need for further circulation. It means I'm having a really hard time, okay? Which goes back to my question on page 52 with regard to there is a future need. So what staff has said here is there is a future need for circulation moving forward, and we need be engrossed ordinance 882 in order to study that problem through the process. Otherwise, we'll end up with the worst-case scenario that I've just described. And I believe Commissioner Rogers' points go to this very same problem, that he's trying to ensure that we don't end up with this problem of tile flat road coming down to Shoals Ferry Road, further putting further pressure on Shoals Ferry Road and Roy Rogers Road. So it leaves me with a choice that I can either vote no on this ordinance, which supports my position of not wanting to see a road development on that undesignated northwest portion, or proceed with this ordinance such that we have better solutions. I'm thinking out loud here, folks.
So, Chair, if I could, I appreciate your comments and your line of questioning here and the struggle that you're dealing with. And I just want to reinforce, we understand these are really difficult, challenging decisions that you are asked to make. And we are really just seeking to try to find the right balance between the need to plan for and accommodate the many, many thousands of residents that we know are coming. The need for connectivity will continue to be there. So we are really focused on trying to be solution-oriented. We understand there are lots of difficult trade-offs that need to be considered here as well. And I would just say, maybe more specifically to your current line of inquiry, the timing of roadway construction, I think in the currently rural undesignated area, feels remote to us. The ordinance does not specify a timing at this point. However, there are other examples in the county where the board has adopted a future alignment in what's currently a rural area, and there is no funding to build that roadway connection. It isn't one of our high priority needs right now, but it has been planned for, and the community has the opportunity to know that there is a plan for a future roadway.
Can you remind me what area that is?
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically of the North Bethany area. There is the Shackelford Road extension between the western boundary of North Bethany to 185th Avenue. And that's an area that, very much like this one, I think, where it would make the most sense that any future roadway construction that might occur in that rural area would really occur as a part of urbanization of that area. It seems unlikely that a new rural roadway segment would rise to the top of the board's list of priority needs for funding and construction. So I think the idea, again, is really just to, as you say, put the flag in the plan that there is an identified need or opportunity in this area, that we want to have the capacity to continue to study that when the timing is appropriate to do so. I think the more urgent matter, as you indicated, really is trying to ensure that as the City of Tigard is doing their comprehensive planning for River Terrace 2.0, that we are being clear about those needs that you mentioned for internal connectivity, that we aren't precluding options for future connectivity in the area, and that we just aren't simply closing the door on flexibility for the future.
Absolutely.
The big difference between Shackelford and this area is that the county is the planning organization and also will do the road. In this particular area, the problem is that we haven't really come to some resolution with our partner in the city. Forgetting Vandermost, which I don't want to even go across, and I've made that point. Why I'm really troubled, I've already said I agree that there needs to be a road. I've already agreed that we need to study. I've agreed to all that. I just don't agree its placement. And I don't see that we've come to some conclusion with the city to do some thoughtful planning. And that's why if all of a sudden that were worked out and we could figure out something that would make some sense, I'd feel a lot better. And if I really knew what that capacity of that was going to be, because if we're going to get all kinds of diversion and we're building a freeway, in essence, through that area, don't want that either. I mean, everybody, if we had a grid system like Portland, it'd be different, but we don't. And so I'm concerned that we don't know enough details. And if 3 folks want to pass it, that's great. As you mentioned, and Aaron, you made that point, Tiger takes over the planning tomorrow. All of this could have been in vain. I mean, they may say no road at all, and we have not done our job as a regional planner of facilities to, I'll use the word snake, it's not a great term, but to get through those areas in a way that benefits the entire county while not being too detrimental to particular locale. And so I don't see that we're that far along. We're studying, but at the same time, there's acceleration of we've got to bring this into the city, we've got to urbanize it, we've got to sit there and say it's only walkable and bikeable. And what we're talking about is a facility that's not meant to do that. So they need to orient their development so that it's not going to impact their interior residents, at the same time not making a freeway out of this thing, and at the same time impacting as little as possible. We're just not there, and we're still talking. So anyway, I think we all understand the issues. It's just really, really premature to be here in my mind. So that's where I am.
And Commissioner, just very quickly, I appreciate something that you just said. I want to highlight, I do feel that you mentioned the fact that more urbanized areas typically have a grid system, and we really are working to create one here.
Let's the board's in deliberations. Let's let them deliberate, unless they have specific questions for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Roberts, for trying to answer our technical questions while we support exclusive board deliberation. I do have an additional question that I neglected to ask earlier, and that was both through the recent letter from Mr. Morgan as well as his public comment. He was raising a legal flag on Goal 7. And I make the assumption, Mr. Anderson, that our legal team sees no legal issue with our moving forward with this ordinance and the subsequent finding. But given that that point was made earlier, I strive to give you the opportunity to speak to that matter as our legal counsel, and I meant to do that earlier, neglected to. So.
Thank you, Chair. We are comfortable with the ordinance and the findings as written.
Okay, thank you. So I'll close on my comment. I perfectly understand where Commissioner Rogers is coming from. I do, however, think that we are a bit in a chicken and an egg situation with regard to resolving those various needs. In order to work through that detail, we do need to raise the need for the circulation requirement and move forward. And as such, I think I've been very clear with our staff about the kind of things I don't want to see happen in that continued work. And I know that they've heard all of us. And as such, at this juncture, I'm going to support the passage of B engrossed ordinance 882. And that ends with the one exception. I meant to thank Mayor Lube for the letter, the most recent letter of January 29th, in complimenting our staff in further collaboration with our county staff. So unless there are other commissioner comments, just one last checking in. I'm seeing none.
I liked your chicken and egg situation comment, Chair Harrington. I wrote it down.
Thank you, Commissioner Fye. And with that, I would ask Clerk Moss for the roll call vote on B engrossed ordinance 882.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Commissioner Treese?
Aye.
Commissioner Fye?
Aye.
Commissioner Rogers?
No.
Commissioner Willie?
Aye.
Chair Harrington?
Yes. And the ordinance passes 4-1. Next, we will move on to action item 1, to adopt the
Chair?
finding. Yes,
Could
Commissioner Willie.
Could I interrupt you? I have extended all the time that I can without missing my airplane, so I'm going to drop off if that's okay right now.
Yes, goodbye, safe travels.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Okay.
So we now have 4 of us on the commission. Thank you for those of you who came to attend this meeting in person, and I appreciate your quiet exit as we move forward with our meeting. Next, we have the findings for B engrossed ordinance 882. I would ask for a motion to adopt the findings for B engrossed ordinance 882, an ordinance amending the transportation system plan element of the comprehensive plan relating to the extension of Tile Flat Road.
So moved.
All those in favor, please. Yes, it's a resolution in order. And to authorize the chair to sign the resolution in order memorializing the action. Yes. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying no. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we're moving on to approving a resolution in order in the matter of reappointing a member of the Housing Authority of Washington County Board of Directors. I will just, we do have a short staff presentation. Thank you very much for coming forward. I appreciate that, and please take it away.
Good afternoon, 12:08. For the record, my name is Melissa Sensal. I'm the Policy and Planning Manager for the Department of Housing Services and the Housing Authority of Washington County. I'm here today in place of our Executive Director, Molly Rogers, who had a conflict with HUD. So I am here today to request that your board approve the resolution in order reappointing Michael Savara to the Housing Authority Board of Directors for a term expiring December 31st, 2027. It's a 4-year term. As you know, the Housing Authority Board of Directors is the governing body for the Housing Authority of Washington County, consisting of 7 directors, the Board of County Commissioners, and then 2 citizens at large positions. We currently have 1 vacancy on the Board of Directors because of the expiration of one of those citizens at large positions. Michael Savara was one of the applicants. We had, I think we have 5 current applicants to that board, and Michael Savara previously served on the Board of Directors with a term ending just this last December 2023. In addition to Mr. Savara's experience on the Housing Authority Board of Directors, he brings career experience in housing, currently serving as the Special Initiatives Director at Oregon Housing and Community Services. He's also a licensed clinical social worker and a certified addictions counselor. He has shown strong advocacy for affordable housing and homelessness solutions. He is also a longtime member of Washington County, born in Beaverton and now living in Hillsborough. We are pleased to recommend the reappointment of Mr. Savara to a 2nd term on the Housing Authority Board of Directors. Any questions?
Thank you, Melissa, because you brought it to life, and I didn't have to, though I was prepared to.
Of course.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Savara, for reapplying and bringing your expertise forward. Next, we have our 2nd public comment period for this evening, this meeting. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and address the board for up to 5 minutes. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
Yes, Madam Chair, we had 2 people that signed up. See if they're still here. Andrea D'Amico and Maria Ponzi.
Hi, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Andrea D'Amico. I'm a member of Save Shoals. There are not words available or allowed to describe how I feel and my disappointment in your decision. Why didn't they study Ordinance 882 before? But I would like to remind you of the violations of your decision. Statewide planning goals. Goal 1, citizens' involvement. Effective two-way communication with the public. After 2 years of us stating our concerns, they were never addressed. Yes, staff visited the site, met with us, but not to help, find solutions, or alternatives. Goal 2, city and county, to build comprehensive plan on factual base, to be consistent with one another, and accommodate the concerns of other affected governments as much as possible. City of Tigard doesn't want 882's major arterial, yet the county bulldozed ahead. Tigard provided a traffic study showing that the expansion of the tile flat only created serious problems for Tigard, including congestion. Tigard and the county have two separate plans. Tigard wants a neighborhood for everyone. The county took valuable, buildable land for a major arterial. No one but the county wants. Goal 3, farmland. You took away Tanya Steele's tree farm. She can't plant with a refinement area, knowing that Christmas trees do not reach maturity for 6 to 10 years. The county was required to take a Goal 3 exception and failed to do so as required. Goal 4, forest land. Your forest area borders my timber property. Goal 5, natural resources, my favorite. You have heard for 2 years, or let me rephrase this. We have spoken for 2 years about wetlands, beavers, fish passage, turtles, salmonid, tree canopy, Tualatin River. There isn't enough time to list everything. Several organizations have written about the serious adverse effect it would have on these natural resources, yet the county bulldozed ahead. Goal 10, housing. The refinement area takes away buildable housing land, making the adjacent land overpriced. If a developer must put in a bridge and a road, traffic credits do not even start to offset the cost. You're driving up the cost of homes when you say there is a housing shortage and making land unbuildable in the UGB, which goes back to Goal 2. The county is working against the city. And now we have 660-012. You must meet goal exceptions. I just went over that. Refinement areas must describe an issue that need to be resolved. We only saw maps. The county must show a transportation need. We never saw data reports. We just saw maps. Requirements of alternatives. There were never alternatives shown, even when Save Shoals and Tigard reminded the county that it was required to consider alternatives. Refinement areas are areas that TSP is changing or making alignment or a turnway or, for simplicity, remodeling. It's not starting a road. I'm very sorry for your decision.
Go ahead, Ms. Ponzi.
Maria Ponzi, Chair Harrington, Commissioners, Maria Ponzi, resident of Shoals, also Oregon Tourism Commissioner. Absolutely disheartened, disappointed. I want to commend the courage of Roy Rogers, Commissioner. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for thinking with your heart, thinking holistically, thoughtfully for the future of this valley. You have heard from thousands of citizens, and I also want to just address the fact that you have over and over again given gratitude to your staff, yet there were hundreds of people in this room today that you did not thank for attending at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, when just last week they thought they might attend in the evening. You serve us, okay? We have been here for 2 years. Organizations have shown you, we have demonstrated tirelessly the concerns we have. Yet you have decided today to move forward with a refinement to keep options open. I question, how are the options of the farmers, the residents who live within this area, how do they plan for this future. I question this. You had a choice today. You have options still. You missed one. You could have taken this option off the table. You have had thousands of reasons to take it off the table, to take this plan back and rework it with your constituents. But take this away, because this has been shown that your citizens don't want it. This does not look good for the political process. Commissioner Fye, the last meeting we had, you addressed us. You said thank you for your action, right? There were young people in the crowd here. How do you feel about that comment today? How are those young people feeling about the process that has taken place today? And I will go ahead and reiterate what was said earlier today, which was this process has been clumsy from the beginning. Maps are unclear to see. We don't know what they mean. We don't know who's included. They change every other couple weeks. I'm very frustrated, as you can tell, and I'm incredibly disappointed. I want to speak to you about enlightened leadership. I would like you to consider how you can be better at leading with enlightenment, with doing things differently. I want to mention, again, Washington County has an incredible opportunity. Agritourism, $300 million of economy contributed to our state, okay? We can do better than that. Washington County has the ability to be enlightened and stop this UGB. Be strong. Don't allow them to take our farmland. Don't allow them to take wetlands. Don't allow Metro to do what they want to do to our county. It takes courage. Do it the right way. As a reminder, just last year, Time magazine announced the Willamette Valley as one of the greatest places in the world to visit. I might add that Washington County's own Ponzi Vineyards was in the opening paragraph. Additionally, Forbes just listed Washington County as a top destination for 2024. You have a choice. Today you chose development, sprawl, traffic over saving our environment, protecting our climate, our native habitats, our wetlands, our very rare and precious farmlands that do not exist anywhere else in this nation. You had a choice today. You did the shortcut. I'm disappointed. And I will tell you that Shoals community is strong. And this coalition that we have built, Save Shoals, is not going away. We are diligent on this issue. I appreciate your work on this. I hope to see more favorable, enlightened leadership in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Would any other member in the auditorium wish to provide public comment at this time? Either stand up, raise a hand, or come forward.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Mia Ponzi-Hamaker. I live on Vandermost Road. I wasn't going to speak today, so I don't have anything prepared, but I just wanted to speak to you because this is obviously really having a large effect on my future. I'm 24 years old. I moved back to the house that my mom grew up in on Vandermost Road to start my business. I don't know what else to say to you except that I really hope that you reconsider this idea and the future of planning. As you just heard, we live in a really precious place, and the choice to build roads and houses on this land that is so precious feels like a really big mistake, not just for you and your careers, but for the future of all of the young people that you are supposed to represent. I have had a reoccurring nightmare since the start of this for the past 2 years about development in this area, and I had it again last night. And now you have affirmed that that will come true, that the development will continue, that this land that is so precious, that cannot be replaced, will turn into roads and houses. I really encourage you to think about the planning of accessibility, and rather than investing in more roads, invest in public transportation, invest in walkability and bikeability. This area is not accessible. You're talking about traffic. Let's think of actually something that will be impactful in the long term, not more cars, please. Thank you.
Ms. Hamaker, because you mentioned nightmares, today's action on Ordinance 882 is not speaking to the fact that the River Terrace 2.0 is a UGB expansion area and will be developed. It does speak to the concern that you have about the transportation connectivity and the transportation planning. Because you've raised that, for me, you've raised a concern about the, in my words, the stress of this process that has been a bit chaotic. There was a different word for it that put it better. I am saddened to hear of the impact that this has had on you, particularly in the word that I heard of nightmare. I want to assure you that I have heard your comments. There wasn't anything about today's decision that supports or could deny that the UGB decision has been made and by the Metro Council, and that land development will happen in that area. But I do believe that the city of Tigard is being very mindful about that. And I know that I have learned a lot through the course of this process. And as I acknowledged earlier, I failed to do something. And with regard to the briefing, and I chose to not stand in the way of moving forward with the study, though the result for the transportation part is still very much into the future. So I will be following up on that. And the reason that I'm saying that to you today is to help offer you a peace of mind as we move forward, so that you'll be able to sleep better. Because I am a person who, in order to move forward, sleep is very important to me. So I wish for nightmares to not be a reoccurrence for you. That, I'm just trying to relate person to person. That is all.
Thank you, Commissioner. You have the power to not make that nightmare come true.
I understand. Enlightened leadership. Thank you.
All right, we'll give one last call to anyone in the room that wants to provide comment. Not see anyone. Nope. Okay, we had one online, Jody Weiser. Jody, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Yes. So I want to speak to the baseball diamond funding issue. I looked at your FAQ sheet, and I could just comment going through it from top to bottom. At the bottom of the first page, it talks about if the Hops don't get this funding, it will result in them moving their affiliation with Major League Baseball and their inability to operate. So the volcanoes in Salem did get abandoned by Major League Baseball, and they are continuing as a team. Further, it assumes that the only source of funds for the owners of this team is the public, when in fact, when people own businesses and they need to invest in their business, they typically do that. Or if they don't want to invest more of their own money, they bring in other investors. Instead, they are attempting to get the public to take on ever more responsibility for a facility that they signed a contract on with Major League Baseball in 2021. And while they're saying they're going to get sign a 40-year contract with you, they only have 8 years of contract left with Major League Baseball. So at the end of 8 years, Major League Baseball could say to the hops what they said to the volcanoes. We don't want to associate with you anymore. I think that that is really critical to the decision you have to make, because you're making the decision to help build a facility that won't really have much use unless this team stays. And to think that the team will stay there for 40 years is really expecting a lot. Further, when I look at the projections about what the team will bring in terms of economic activity, the team increased in size, in attendance from 119 to 154,000 attendees a year over their first 10 years. They're expecting to get to 340 some thousand now. That is pretty unrealistic expectation, because a new stadium does not just get a whole bunch of new visitors. All the other economic activity assumes that if this team is not in Washington County, the people who would otherwise spend their money going to the games, staying in hotels, and eating meals will put their money in a savings account and never take it out and spend it. That's not true. If they're not going to a Hops game, they're going to go to a Thorns game. They're going to go to Regal Theaters. They're going to go out to eat. They're going to have their family someplace else. And the Echo Northwest study also assumes not only this massive growth in the size of the attendees, but also that every person who comes to the game from outside the immediate area would stay in a hotel. Now, I can imagine my kids coming and we decide to go to a game, but they would be staying at my house. They wouldn't be staying in a hotel. So their expectations that they've built into it are all very much pie in the sky to make the numbers look good. It says on page 2, the remainder of the funding needs to be provided by the hops, but they're asking for you to provide the rest of the funding and for the state legislature to provide more funding. That's not having it provided by the hops. They also say, I'm lost my place here. Yeah, there's on the next to last paragraph, they talk about the 40-year lease that I mentioned already. Remember, they only have 8 years left of a contract, Major League Baseball. So if they don't continue, how will the costs be paid? Because you're giving out money expecting to get property tax revenue. And if you take their most elaborate expectation of revenue, it's $129,000 a year in property tax revenue. It would take you, you will stop receiving the 25 you're receiving now, because that stadium won't be being used by the hops. And it has to be being used by some profit-making thing, or they won't be paying property taxes. So you remove that 25,000 and you come up, it'll take 76 years to recoup in property taxes the $8 million that you've been asked to provide. That's a very long time frame and way beyond the 40-year agreement they've made. The projections, as I said, are highly speculative, and I really think you should look carefully at this. Be happy to meet with you to discuss it further. Thank you.
Ms. Weiser. I appreciate your bringing forward a topic that was on the board's work session agenda earlier today. The recording of that Zoom meeting through Zoom will be made available on our website soon. In addition, process-wise, the request from the board today was asking we made modifications to the draft resolution and order, and in that discussion, and the board requested that our staff put that resolution in order on our February 6th business meeting, which will be next Tuesday, February 6th. It is a morning meeting that will start at 10 a.m., and we will be taking public testimony on that resolution and order as part of our action section of the agenda, and we hope to make that clear as part of the published agenda for that May 6th meeting. Thank you for paying attention to the work session packet, and all that material and a little bit more will be made available as part of the final packet for the February 6th meeting. Okay? Just wanted to make sure that the process was clear, not only to you, Ms. Weiser, but to our wider Washington County community. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would any other attendees via Zoom wish to provide public comment for up to 5 minutes on any county-related topic? Give you just one more moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any other hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And that brings us to the end of the public comment section, and brings us to the last item, next to the last item, Board of Commissioner announcements. I would like to announce our upcoming future meetings. Tuesday, February 6th, we're in February already. Work session starts at 9. We'll reconvene later in the afternoon, likely 1 p.m. Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting will start here at 10 a.m., which means our board meeting will immediately follow. Thursday, February 8th, we will be, instead of having a Washington County roundtable, Board of Commissioners roundtable, we will instead have a training day for Clean Water Services Board of Directors starting at 9 a.m. Tuesday, February 13th, we will not be having any board meetings. Enjoy the day off from attending or watching board work session or business meetings. Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, we'll have our combination of work session meetings starting at 9, reconvening later, board meeting at 10 a.m. And then the end of the month, Tuesday, February 27th, we'll have a work session in the afternoon starting at 2 and a board meeting at 6:30 in the evening. That brings us to the end of today's published agenda. What are the wishes of the commission with regard to adjourning today's meeting? We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, please by voting, raise your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. We are hereby adjourned. And commissioners, would you like to reconvene at 1:30 or 1?
Do we have, I'm looking at the length of our work session.
Yep, it's pretty full.
Yeah, it goes to like 4:30. We might, I believe at least.